Good afternoon. How are you all out there dealing with this pandemic? It's driving me nuts. I am getting a lot of quality reading time in, but, I live by myself, and so I'm like talking to the characters. I'm so desperate for socialization here. I'm Joan Kinding, back with Sagging Bookshelves, and I'm feeling a little muddled today. I just finished watching Representative John Lewis's funeral cortege go over the Edmund Pettus Bridge, where in 1965 he was beaten to within an inch of his life. Really an incredible man, and it's broken my heart that he's gone now. But we just carry on and do the things he believed in that we believe in too, right? So, in his honor. But anyway, so muddled is what I am, and when I'm muddled, I often turn to books. Books give me solace. They give me escapism, which I'm really on the market for right now. And they just are old friends in a way, and I can lose myself in them and escape this world and learn something while I'm doing it, Well, but today I have a number of things I want to talk about, but this is a new book that I thought you might like. I'm going to push this up a bit because I think I accidentally turned the recording off before. No, it wasn't good. I had to redo everything. Willems, you've heard of him, haven't you? And this is coming out in October of 1920. I want to thank Dina Sherman for sending it to me so I could highlight it here today. He's got a lot going on. All the time. He's part of the Kennedy Center for Performing Arts now, and just all kinds of things, and yet he still gets to his books. And this is based, set up for kids in the Elephant and Piggy stage. I think maybe a bit more challenging, and it's about squirrels. So it's Unlimited Squirrels, and I Want to Sleep Under the Stars. Who wouldn't, huh? These are all the crazy squirrels. There will be no pop quiz, so don't worry about it. But there's zip and zap and boom and bim and wowie and zowie and flink and blink and wink and clink and nutshell and quiz, flappy squirrel, zoom squirrel, zing squirrel, and Norman. I like there's a Norman in there. I star in part of this book. Wowee, zowie, let's read it. Look, Zip Squirrel, I made a table of condiments. Thanks, Clink Squirrel, but I wanted a table of contents. So there we have our vocabulary for the day. This is condiments, which is not a word that a lot of kids hear anymore. It's maybe a little archaic, but table of contents they sure should know about, and that's a great way to show kids what that is, because they're going to be dealing with them the rest of their life. It says here, look for the emote acorns in the story. They pop up when the squirrels have big feelings. And so they're emoticons, but in squirrel shape. And that helps kids interpret the story, really, in a lot of ways, doesn't it? The Big Story, I Want to Sleep Under the Stars, by Willems. I'm sorry I'm in this insert, but there you go. Hi, Zoom Squirrel. Did you say you want to sleep under the stars? Yes, Zip Squirrel. I like the stars. I love the peace and quiet. I have never slept under the stars before. It is my dream. Squirrel friends! Yes, hi, what's up? Hello, you called? He's knocked over by the response. Zoom Squirrel wants to sleep under the stars for the first time. Wow, we must help. Cool. How? When I try something new, I like to be encouraged. Encouraged? What does that mean? Being told you can do it by a friend. Being encouraged gives me courage. What are we waiting for, squirrels? Let's encourage Zoom Squirrel. Go Zoomy, go Zoomy, go Zoomy. You can do it. Sleep, sleep, sleep. I like the cheerleader, rah, rah, rah stuff. But you can also see here that these lines that Mo's put in there, if you look at the emoticon's kind of annoyed at this point, so that helps them figure that out. Please stop. What is wrong? We want to encourage you. I do not want to be encouraged. I want peace and quiet. Oh, peace and quiet. Got it. We will be team peace. We will be team quiet. Do you get the idea that maybe they're not getting the idea? Zip, 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 zap, zap, zap. Peace, peace, peace. Quiet, quiet, quiet. Peace, quiet, peace, quiet, peace, quiet. Squirrel friends, I know you are trying to help me sleep under the stars, but it's not working. How do you know? Well, I am awake, and the stars are gone! It is too late for this squirrel. Or is it too early? Wait! This is a squirrel problem. We will find a squirrel solution. Squirrels away! Well, I yawn. Learned something tonight. Squirrels do not know much about sleeping. Under the stars. Zzz, plonk. Zzz. There is something else that squirrels do not know much about. Giving up on a friend. And I like that they went and got sticks and hung stars. So he is actually sleeping under the stars, isn't he? I give that story 6 stars and 1 sleepy squirrel. Now, Mo has taken in this series to having a corny joke bit, and it's not my favorite, but kids will like that. Hey, Corn, how is the word asleep like the alphabet? Hi, Corn, I'm stumped. How is the word asleep like the alphabet? They both start with an A and end with Z's. That joke was tired. See, so it's that sort of thing. I used to just cringe when kids would take out joke books from the library because I'd have to listen to them all. Mrs. Kending, have you heard this one? It was really hilarious. Like, of course, because I'm so much older than them, of course I've heard them. So too funny. Kids are kids. This morning I was reading something on the Robb Review, which is a blog that's done by the great educator Laura Robb and her son, who's a great principal of Berryville, I believe, is the town. I always mix it up with Sperryville, but I'm pretty sure he's Berryville, Virginia, middle school. And he works a lot towards implementing his mom's ideas for, and his own ideas for getting kids reading. And something I saw in there today is a quote that I've known for a long time, but I thought, I should share that again. Back in 1994, Marilyn Jager Adams wrote a book that was meant to be a compendium of what do we know about reading from where we stand now. And there was another really great one that was done many, Nyla Blanton Smith, many years earlier. So this was kind of refreshing to have this update. And it was called Beginning to Read. And one of the quotes is one that I think I could have told you that, Any teacher who's been with kids in the classroom on their journey to become readers knows that reading aloud is very, very important. And this quote is, Reading aloud with children is known to be the single most important activity for building the knowledge and skills they will eventually require for learning to read. Reading aloud, especially in the early years before school even, is a brilliant way to get your child in good shape for school. It builds their vocabulary. It helps them figure out how a story works. That, in our culture anyway, it differs by cultures. But we have a beginning and then a middle, and then some action occurs, and that it's the resolution of that action that brings us to the end of the story. And you can see it in the littlest of kids. It's pretty amazing. And they also get something called prosody. Sometimes people don't know what that word is. And with my handwriting, you may not yet. It's called prosody. And it's the sing-song quality of children reading. We don't read in monotones. That would be dead boring. We don't talk like that. Prosody is the music that's kind of overlaid on what the kids are reading. And I've seen wonderful examples of a kid reading, it's actually pretend reading, a storybook that's been read to him a bunch of times. You hear the ups and the downs, pretty exaggerated actually. But it tells you that kid's really connecting with the book. And that really will help them when they get to actually getting the speech to print match and therefore reading. But to have picture books around on a daily basis, they hear them from the time they're babies with board books. There's books should be every single day, I think, in every kid's life. But reading aloud with children really gives them everything they'll need when they get to school. In my library, I had a bunch of those stuffies or plushes of storybook characters up on a shelf, and I'd take the kindergarten kids over there, and we'd talk about the characters and who knew any of them, and there would be some who were just jumping out of their skin with their hands raised, and others who didn't know even a one of them, and that could be shy kids who just won't share, and that I understood that. But there were kids there who'd never seen books before, and that tells me I've got my work cut out for me, don't I? So that's the best RX you can give a kid. Just be read to more. It makes a huge difference. And someone was telling me the other day, now I can't remember who it was, and I apologize for that, that she was told, I don't remember exactly how she said it, but I'll tell you my remembrance of when I was in the library. I had a kindergarten teacher come to me, and she said, I do not want my kids to be able to get dinosaur books. And I said, why? And, well, they can't read them. Well, they can't read them. That's quite true. Most of them in kindergarten would be just looking at the pictures. It with great joy, by the way. And I thought, you got to be kidding. They just have to have access to these things. And so I just didn't say yay or nay. I just did what I pleased. But I thought I'd be risking my life if I tried to stand there and bar them from that 567.9 dinosaur area. They'd knock me over. Now, kids don't, they like to look at pictures. They learn that it's this way and not this way. They learn, there's so much to learn about books. It's all, tacit for us. We know it, but they don't necessarily. And so there, I just did what I wanted to do anyway. So, but read alouds are so awesome. And then when they get into the beginning readers, like I just read you, they're in hog heaven. So I wanted to point out a few things to you that I think that you might want to know about. And this one, they're in no particular order, but things I was thinking about this morning. There's an online you get it as an email, and it's called Publishers Weekly Children's Bookshelf. And in that are all kinds of pieces of information, including what books will be coming out in the next season, or currently, or during these days of the pandemic. Here's which authors will be offering something online, and so on. It just keeps you up on the gossip and the trajectory of children's books in the foreseeable future. For instance, this week I learned in there that Joanna Cole died. The author Joanna Cole, the Magic Treehouse, that's Mary Pope Osborne, Magic School Bus creator with Bruce Dagan, and in her 70s, and they didn't say what she died of, but I think they would have mentioned it if it had been corona. But so that was, that's kind of where I can get that kind of information. Another thing that you'll like is something that they're just now, it's called Kidlit at Home. And it's called Kidlit TV. So if you Google Kidlit, one word, TV, it's got all these things that we didn't used to be able to watch at home. They'd be more for libraries and things like that. But I know a lot of authors who are pretty active on it. So then they just, in that Publishers Weekly, they said, oh no, they're now going to do it. You have to go into the Kidlit TV and then scroll down and you'll see Kidlit at Home. You click on that and there's like a gazillion things that are open for you to use. And they're doing this because of the pandemic so that those children who are learning at home can get some resources that they might not otherwise have. I also wanted to mention Reading Rockets. That's got a lot of good information about reading and has authors and illustrators and just lots of fun and worth just browsing. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the Rob Review. The Rob Review is, Laura and Evan Robb, and they talk about reading across the grade levels and what works and things you might not have thought of before, and I like it because it makes me just, my mind go to a different place. So I encourage you to check out that. So how about that? Lots of stuff. I also follow a lot of friends online, and I love the ones who tell me about what they're reading. And there's a teacher, she was in Winchester now. She's in Loudoun County, Rebecca Webster. I hope you don't mind me calling you out, Rebecca. And she just had to read a book for a class she's taking. And the book was Between Shades of Gray. It's by Ruta Sepetys. Couldn't find my copy. My house is a mess. What can I tell you? If we weren't in a pandemic, I would actually invite friends to come over and help me sort them. That's how desperate I am. Anyway, Ruta Sepetys is, I should write her name down because it's a doozy, huh? She's of Lithuanian ethnicity. Ruta Sepetys. I think I have this correct. Do you see it? Ruta. I bet you that's connected to the name Ruth. Anyway, she's from a Lithuanian background. She's a really, really nice woman, and she's a very talented writer. I've liked everything she's published. And Ruta did this book called Between Shades of Gray, and she said, I was at a dinner with her, and she was saying, I think I got a lot of accidental buys when people thought they were buying Shades of Gray. They must have been really surprised when they got your book. This is a story of World War II. In Lithuania, and about how Lithuanian Jews were rounded up. And something I never knew, and this is the beauty of reading widely, is that those Lithuanian Jews were taken really pretty much to Siberia, and what life was like trying to survive in conditions that are brutal in the concentration camps, but add on to that severe cold. It was such a good book, and from Rebecca's post, she said that she'd read this when it came out, which was a few years back, but she was rereading it for this class, a dutiful student, and was just amazed at how good it was. And then her former teacher buddy, Jamie, chimed in, said the same thing. It's just that beautiful a book. Books are to be revisited. A lot of people don't seem to know that. When my granddaughter went to the beach this week, I said to her beforehand, what are you going to read? And she whipped out, because she always has it with her, she loves this Wings of Fire by Scholastic. It's a fantasy series written on about a 5th grade level, and it's about dragons. She loves it. Go figure. That's why she doesn't have my genetic ancestry showing too much. I said, but I thought you read all those. And she said, I'm reading them again now. And I thought, well, good for you, We do that, and I do that. And series are particularly great because you know the characters so well, and you can just revisit all with them. It's awesome. I remember someone coming into my house, seeing all my books, and said, why do you keep them? In other words, return them to the library or take them to Goodwill. And I thought, what an odd thought. It would never occur to me, because these are treasures, And as I look through my shelves getting ready to talk each week, I'm like, oh my gosh, that one. Wow, I loved that. You just really do like it. So anyway, I recommend reading widely. It's great fun. And if you as teachers are teaching a particular thing, a topic, sink into the world of children's and young adult books. You will find really all you need. This one was one that came, I was talking about being muddled, feeling muddled. We're living in a time, there's no denying it, of hate. I just don't have that. I don't understand why people are driven by that. I just don't get it. Yet, everything I see and read has got it. I watched a movie the other night. I think it was called Anne Frank: A Parallel Life, something like that, and it had Helen Mirren in it, to my surprise. And it was about a young girl who, in modern day, who's reading The Diary of Anne Frank and asking questions of it, like, how were you so brave? Could I have done this? And you just, then again, that whole thing was just filled with the Holocaust. I mean, it's just ghastly and unnecessary and immoral and all those things. So do watch that movie. It was pretty good. Anyway, I was thinking too of the hate that we see in for refugees. I mean, I was writing something the other day, talking about how it was in a review, about how the hate has shown up all along, hasn't it? And that we've even put people in internment camps, like the Japanese. It's a crazy world. I think we just have to keep doing the best we can and hopefully show an example. Anyway, I just wanted to just mention this book. I should put it down and you can see it better. This was a really great book, I thought. Alan Gratz has done a lot of really good ones. This one is a story told in 3 voices, in different time periods even. One is a refugee who's like escaping from Syria, where there's nothing left to go back to, even if they wanted to. And then, so that's modern day. And then there was another one, a kid from, that was a really sad one about, do you know the story of a boat that left Nazi Germany? They were letting some Jews go, just get out of here, we don't need you. They got on a boat and they went first to Cuba, and Cuba wouldn't let them off. And then they came to the U.S. The U.S. wouldn't let them off. It was really astounding. And then I can't remember the third story, but they all end up being somehow connected in the present day. It was absolutely well done. And again, it's these little known things, like I didn't know about the Siberia thing in Rudis Sepetys' book. I didn't know each of these three. I didn't know about the boat, and that, I should know that. So that was really good. But it's not all. It's not all in the past. Obviously, these notions of hate. If you don't know Jason Reynolds, this is a really great book. He co-wrote it with Brendan Kiley. Jason just did that book Stamped, which is about racism in the here and now and what anti-racism means. He's so prolific, and his writing's so damn good. And in this one, it's really about a white boy and a black boy, and if one of them is going to be selected of the two as being a troublemaker, it's always the black kid. I mean, it's really crazy. And this one won the, a lot of awards, but the Coretta Scott King Award honor. He's awesome, and the kids really, really like the middle school and up. They just love it because he's so right on to what they're doing. I was also thinking of that book, The Hate You Give. Oh my gosh, that was such a good book too. I like it much better than the movie. And then this book is another treasure from that, type of book. The Watsons Go to Birmingham, 1963. And I think the genius in this book is that we look at that title, and we adults, if we're at all aware of our history, know that in 1963 those 4 black children, little girls, were blown up in a church in Birmingham at that time. And this is a family that has long since left the South during the Great Migration. But the oldest boy is turning out to be a corker, and in the African-American community, you take him back to Big Mama, who will take care of that. So they go back down, and they're heading right towards this horrific event. Yet, it's so funny in places. I mean, there's one that I have here that I just was looking at. Why did I? Oh yeah, this is the scene where the eldest, who's the trouble guy, the middle child's telling us the story. But Byron is admiring himself in the car rearview mirror. It's like below freezing, and he kisses his image, and his lips get stuck. It's hilarious. It is just so funny. But so we have this wonderful balance of lightheartedness, but heading towards this dark. It was really, they won the Newbery, I believe, didn't it? They should have. Newbery Honor. But I also wanted to bring you back to something I really loved. You do know this series, I hope. Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry. I thought this book blew me away. I listened to it, and for those of you who are listeners, we often refer to those ones where you just can't stop, that you get home, and they're called driveway books because you sit in your driveway to finish at least till the next chapter, and this was one of those for me, and I cried. It was just amazing. And so I read the whole series, of course. I've never met her. The place where you meet authors often is at conferences, but she just doesn't do the conference circuit. So I've never met her, but boy, do I admire her. So this was 25 years ago, of course. But I wanted to make sure you all knew that there's a new one, the last one. And it's, of course, by Mildred Taylor. It's All the Days Past, All the Days to Come. And it's in 1944, it starts, with a family going back to Mississippi. They've already gone with the Great Migration, but their families are there. But it's just unbelievable. In the author's note, which I'll read and hopefully entice you to get this book immediately, I was born in Mississippi. When I was 3 weeks old, my father was involved in a racial incident, and he made the abrupt decision to leave Mississippi. He left that same day. When I was 3 months old, He sent for my mother, my sister, and me, and we all went north. Many of my family followed, but each year we all returned to Mississippi, for that was where our roots were, where my grandparents and other families still lived in Mississippi. In Mississippi, I heard the N-word often spoken. I heard it spoken late one night when our family was traveling a rural road, and my father was stopped by police and taken off to jail, leaving my mother, my sister, and me parked in our new car, frightened, staring out at the blackness of the night. I heard the N-word when I went with cousins to an ice cream parlor in Jackson, the capital of Mississippi, and we were told to go to the back of the building to be served. I heard the N-word when my sister and I wanted to try on clothes in a department store. I heard the N-word just in casual talk whenever white people were around. But it was not only in Mississippi that I heard the N-word. I heard it in Toledo, where I grew up. I heard it when I was 14 years old, and the first African-American girl was elected queen of Toledo High School, and an effigy was hung on the school grounds. All across America, I heard the N-word in Iowa when my family was refused lodging, in Wyoming when we were refused seating in a restaurant, but were allowed to buy food for takeout. I heard it as a young married when my husband and I were stopped by police in L.A. I heard the N-word throughout my childhood and as an adult. It is derogatory, it is demoralizing, it is foul, it is painful, and it is part of our American history. In the United States, from the days the first Africans were brought to this country in chains, the N-word was used. My great-grandparents, who were born into slavery, endured the N-word. They hated the N-word, but they endured it along with all else to which they were subjugated. In 1976, when Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry was published, I said that I wanted to show black heroes and heroines in my books, men and women who were missing from books I read as a child. I also said I wanted to write a truthful history of what life was like for black people in America. That truth includes the N-word. It inflicted great pain, but it is a truth that needs to be told. I do not promote the word, but not to include it in my writing is to whitewash history, and that I will not do. When stories were told around our family fireplace on our Mississippi front porch, my father and other storytellers always included the N-word when recounting the speech of a white person about whom they were speaking. Through their words, I saw the characters vividly. I knew who they were. Now, just as the storytellers of old, I continue to relate the truth as I have done in all my writing. All the days past, all the days to come, includes that same truth, the truth about Americans. Isn't that something? And I haven't read all of it. I've just been dipping into it, but there's this one scene where it's mentioned that they packed the car as if they were going on a picnic, but they're driving like from probably Toledo down to Mississippi. And I have a really wonderful friend. I won't use her name. It's her story to tell, so I won't name her. But she said she's African American, and whenever they went south to visit their relatives, her grandmother always fried chicken and put it all the fixings to go on the trip. And my friend said, "Why are we having your fried chicken?" And her grandmother pretended to be outraged that would she ever let her grandchildren have someone else's fried chicken when she had the best? I loved that. And my friend said that she was protecting us from being frightened that they could get pulled over and get in a fix, or she didn't want to make them angry, and that's so unbelievable to me that someone could be so put their hurt aside and make sure that their grandchildren have love in their heart. It's amazing. It's really amazing. Anyway, go back to Mildred Taylor. You'll just love it. A new book, it came out just in April. I don't think I've mentioned it yet, but if I did ask, someone else will see it, huh? It's called Kent State, and it's written by Deborah Wiles. I did read her book, Freedom Summer, to you, and I just really love her writing. This is the first time that I'm aware of that she's written a novel in verse. And I remember very well Kent State, where Richard Nixon sent in troopers to quell the student, I wouldn't even say riots. They were trying to be heard, and understood. And oh my gosh, it's so good. And I hope she has a picture. And this is a proof, a galley, so I don't think there's probably any pictures in here. But we all remember very well the picture of one of the students who died that day, just laying there with all these the kids, the babies, and it really, this tells you the sign of the times of what was going on during that era, the end of the Vietnam era, and oh my gosh, it's so fabulous. And I for those of you with kids who just, balk at reading for whatever reason, sometimes it is this poetry, like that boy that was just heralded in the Rob Review, that allows them an entry that's not daunting to them. They can, in fact, manage this. It's a thin book. God help us, it's thin. That's good, and it's powerful. So kids will love this book, I promise. And then last, I'm just going to mention this book. I have a bunch I could talk about, but I should make these a little bit shorter than make them. It's another book called Freedom Summer, and but very, very different from Deb Wiles' book. This is the nonfiction. I'm telling you, I am so in love with our nonfiction. And this is by Susan Goldman Rubin. It's Freedom Summer, the 1964 struggle for civil rights in Mississippi. If you want to read about that particular summer where tons of people went down, whites, to make sure that people got registered for the vote, and that children got taught a little bit. That they set up schools so they would have places for they'd fix up junky old houses and make these kind of makeshift schools, and it was really, really very powerful and such a positive thing. But then, of course, as was not uncommon, we would see something like this where there were 3 boys who were picked up by the police for no reason. And this was a bad area to be doing it. And they disappeared. No one ever heard from them again. And but somebody got on the trail of that, and they found them. But I will note here that there were 2 white boys. The only black boy was James Chaney, and Andrew Goodman and Mickey Schwerner were white. I don't think they'd even have gone looking for them if it had all been 3 black guys. And it's horrifying to me, but they did find them, and they were dead, and they found their submerged car in a lake. I mean, it was so grotesque. But this is really powerful, and it just gives you such a great idea of how they mapped out where they were going to be, which sectors, different young adults were going to go to, and so on. So it's really it's just wonderful. I think Susan Goldman Rubin's wonderful. So anyway, thank you for tuning in again. I don't know what the topic will be next time. Whatever I see that strikes my fancy. I think that's the nice thing about doing something like this. Although I am very, very keen myself to read that Mildred tale, and she's just so darn good, isn't she? Well, have a good week, and please take care of yourselves. I'm hoping more and more people are wearing masks. I think the only way, like I'm Dr. Fauci here, like what do I know? But But I do listen to the scientists, and they keep saying that's what's going to change things. We have got to have this end, guys. Whew, it's just crazy. I mean, I've been in this house since March. Holy moly. But we want everyone to be safe. And so good luck, and my heart goes out to all of you parents and teachers who are looking at the school year opening. This is my blog. I guess I can say what I think, and my personal opinion is stay the heck home. I know virtual learning has so many downfalls, and many of them socioeconomic, but I just, to put children in harm's way is beyond the pale to me. So we love our children, and I love my teachers. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you then sometime next week. It's always a surprise. Thank you. Bye-bye.